will be reported. So
Thanks for the
It's now in progress.
and it will be available on our website for anyone, any of your neighbors that visit.
Great. This is a map that you've all seen before. I appreciate that. What I will say is that Ward 7 is the most impacted, and the most stations, the most community associations, really the most everything. The longest tunnel, the shortest tunnel. We've got it all here in Ward 7, and we're proud of it. From Kitchissippi Station all the way to Moody and the LMSF over here. But tonight we are only talking about Woodpark, and therefore we are going to restrict our conversation to basically this world here, Lincoln Fields and New Orchard. New Orchard being a community station, whereas Lincoln Fields is a terminus station, and that has two very fundamental differences in what you can expect in terms of volumes of individuals accessing and egressing, as well as different connectivities in terms of bus and other matters. We always love to start this conversation by talking about the cut and cover tunnel. Byron and Parkway Tunnel is a cut and cover tunnel, and it will be a 3-kilometer tunnel, and it does travel all the way from Kitchissippi Station all the way to Lincoln Fields. And it does travel underneath Kitchissippi McCann Parkway and the Byron Linear Park. I don't think anybody here would be surprised to hear that we began in 2020, because you were all here and you all watched and felt and heard that occur. But what you may not have been aware of is that on 2021, in June, we had our first concrete pour. And so began really the opportunities for the backfilling that we see and that Sue referenced in her introduction. The first section of the tunnel was poured in June of 22. So 1 year after, and not necessarily in the same place, but really because we're talking about a 3-kilometer tunnel, lots of different activities happening in lots of different areas. A very impressive stat that I recently heard and was happy to share here is that 73% of the tunnel is complete. At least it was at the end of August. And now that we are in September, almost October, we can only imagine that that number is greater. But we're not going to speculate because that gets us nowhere. But Kev also provided us with this update that the tunnel will be completely backfilled and concrete poured and backfilled in 2024. I appreciate that number does sound a little different from numbers you've heard in the past. That is not untrue. The truth of the matter is that construction comes with challenges, and Kev has been working to put this package together. So we're working on that, and we're looking forward to that, and we thank them for that. So we have a little video here, and I did a little test run before, so I trust that it will work. And it does demonstrate the way that the Everest traveling formwork operates. Oh, goodness. So effectively, what we have here is the Everest system, and it's a movable system formwork, and it's used for pouring concrete. And so it's a more effective and efficient way of making the box of the tunnel sound and concrete. And that is something that we, as people who work on the project, and you who live and breathe this project would like to see efficient and done. So this is one of those ways that they've come about. There are 3 of these systems on the job, and they are effectively working in the Byron section of the tunnel, and there's I believe they're Piri tunnels, formworks that are operating in the Parkway tunnel. Once the pour is done, the form is collapsed and moved to a new location. There we go. Sorry. This is a map of the Byron linear tunnel. The reason why I'm showing this is because it is a long stretch, even if we're talking from Woodruff West to Lincoln Fields. This is a construction purpose notation. So in the presentation, if I cite a zone, I'm not going to cite zone 7A, 7B, because we're not in construction, you and I. What we are is we're here to learn and we're here to see. So I might make some references, and I'm always going to identify what those references relate to. And I hope that helps and proves useful. Okay. Now we begin our slide presentation with the Woodruff Avenue X Bridge. So this is Zone 8 of the Byron Tunnel. And you will likely remember that what we were doing back in 22 is we stopped traffic, put down a bridge, and the construction team worked underneath the metal steel framework that was above the tunnel they were excavating and concrete pouring. In fact, they poured that whole section of the tunnel before they removed the metal decking in June of this year and reinstated Woodruff and Richmond Road in this area. So again, to Sue's point, here we have areas of the project that have a fully backfilled tunnel. You don't backfill a tunnel until you get all those other elements like concrete done, your waterproofing, all that jazz. Of course, work will still go on in the tunnel once everything is backfilled. We're talking about track work. We're talking about the electrical work, the signals and all that. I mean, this is the sort of thing that is going to be night and day impactful compared to the excavation and pouring of this tunnel. And its status is reinstated, and that's pretty good news. I forgot to put that in there. So here we have Zone 7, and it's just a little west of Woodruff. And what you see here is the Ancaster connector. And what's pretty cool about that is that they were able to fully backfill a section of the tunnel in order to move Ancaster a little east in order to complete the excavation on the west side. But now you can see that tunnel is a parking lot. Like this is progress. This is great progress. And here we are, New Orchard Station, Byron Tunnel Zone 6. And what we can see and what we know is that it was handed over to PCL, which is the station constructor, in March of 2023. And it is still anticipated to be completed in fall of 2024. So basically, this time next year, when we talk, we might be talking about how Kev has a station back and is going to be working on some other aspects of it. And that is pretty exciting for me, and I'm sure for those of you who live along or near Byron Avenue. And one of the issues that that was experienced when the eastbound Ambleside detour was implemented was the fact that with no eastbound Richmond Road, what folks were faced with was trucks requiring to egress via Richardson Avenue. And unfortunately, a few concrete trucks turned into a lot of dump trucks on a few occasions, and Kev has made comments that those were anomalies and they do apologize for those impacts. I am showing this traffic control plan, just a little excerpt, but what we're seeing here is trucks being able to now travel eastbound on Richmond Road, access, and then egress, and back to Richmond Road. So this is only a small section of the tunnel that will be able to receive this kind of traffic control plan based upon what we have in the area. That being said, I know that the city's traffic team has communicated, and the KEV traffic team has responded. And the fact of the matter is they're going to try go above and beyond. It is their efforts to ensure that what we have is plans that respect the community as well as the project. And I think that's a really nice thing to hear. I was really happy to read that. And as we go further west, here we have zones 3 and 4, basically New Orchard to McEwen. Now, this area was the area that, well, you can still see. This is now your eastbound. However, well, this is prior to the, pardon me. Anyway, all to say is when you look at this picture, you can start to understand how come Richardson was used the way it was and whatnot. That being said, the progress that's been made in this section of the tunnel over the last, well, let's call it 6 months, is incredible. And that progress is made part possible by the fact that the community accepted and lived through the eastbound and westbound Ambleside detours. And that's significant. That's not nothing. What you see here is a lot of excavation and SOE works. SOE, for those of you who haven't listened to me drone on for hours, is supportive excavation. And before that we begin any excavations, what we want to do is we want to ensure that the excavations we have are not prone to collapse and whatnot. And we want to protect our workers. We want to ensure that things like that don't go wrong. So SOE works, excavation, and a lot of progress being made. Now the Ambleside detour westbound is still in place. It began in 22 on September 11th and was anticipated to be 16 months. I have not added a completion date because I've not been given a completion date. I believe strongly that it is very possible that this may go a little further, or if really depends on the kind of weather we get in fall and early winter, because that really defines the kind of progress that can be made. All that to be said, even though we are done the eastbound detour, what we also know is that in the new year, there will be 3 short-term closures of approximately 7 days, 1 week each. And that will be to undertake concrete work. And that's in the section of the tunnel that we just looked at that's being excavated right now. And we will, of course, notify all residents and be sure to be very much in front of this. Thank you. And as we move further west, we see the Richmond McEwen area. And so this is zone 2. And this is where we can see the excavation. We can see the road bridge. And we just get into the portal over here. So again, I spent a lot of time in the planning stage looking at 2D maps, getting the plan, but not getting the reality of the plan. And I'm very, very blown away by how this comes together from an engineering standpoint, but also if you think about it, and I know it probably isn't the right audience for me to say this, but you know what, by managing to maintain these connectivity spots, you know, what could be way more impactful is actually a lot less impactful. But I'm not saying what you're experiencing is not impactful. I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to devalue your experience. Um, Now, in this area, we've got concrete works that are ongoing, and what we'll see upcoming are some roof and wall pours, and that will allow us um, to move forward, as it were. And here is Zone 1 and the portal of the Byron Tunnel. And what we can see here is poured tunnel walls, poured portal walls. We don't quite have the roof. All that's coming. And then what we are aware of is that this Byron portal, or the West portal, or however you guys want to affectionately call it, that's going to be one of the main access points that will be used to complete the direct fix plinths. And this is where we all get to learn. That is a concrete pedestal on which rail is affixed. So instead of the wooden ties, you've got concrete. So that is within the cut and cover tunnel. And I do believe between the tunnel and Lincoln Fields, but I'll let Jamie confirm that after. Then as we look south, this is quite the image of Lincoln Fields. We see some elements. So in Lincoln Fields, we have a lot of activity. We have elements that are impactful to some. We have a lot of nighttime and daytime activities in this area. When you look at the space, when you look at the activities, when you look at the progress, I have to say they're doing a lot with a little, even though it feels like a lot. What we have here is upcoming storm sewer work, and that's going to be installed along the eastbound track. And then there's also going to be a noise wall installed, and there'll be a noise wall installed there. And then there's the guideway, which is going to be connected, and that's the track works called for in 2024. And then there's Mount Fields, and Mount Fields, we don't have a timeline for that. But what we do know is that as the tunnel is backfilled, which we know is a big push for the end of 2023 and 2024, that is what fill is used for. So I'm not trying to sweeten the pot or anything, but I do want you to know that it has a purpose and it has a place, and this is only a temporary location. But we know that we need to excavate and connect the Lincoln Fields and the tunnel guideway. So we know that at least where it is right now isn't where it will be, I guess we can say. Now, I will say that when I first saw this picture, I picked up the phone to call Jamie and say, why are we including renderings? And then it occurred to me, this is not a rendering. This is actually a picture of Lincoln Fields, the progress. And I have to tell you, I love being surprised. Of course, if you live close to there and you see it often, this wouldn't be as surprising for you. But I do think that there are those who will continue to be blown away by the progress that we can see here at Lincoln Field Station. It is currently 90% complete, and there's a lot still to go. I mean, for example, we still need to relocate the bus loop. we don't have guideway down there yet, and there's lots to go to the station, but you're looking at the bones of it, and that is really nice, I must say, in my opinion. Now, this began in April 2021, and we've gotten quite some distance in that time. Now we have the Carling Avenue Bridge, and so the Carling excavation, that's completed, and that was completed last year, and that's the excavation that occurred underneath the bridge. That's why we had the lane reductions and all that jazz, and that's so that we can have the guideway go underneath. That guideway work has begun in other places, will begin in earnest in these areas, and that is one of those things when you start seeing it. That's pretty exciting. Another nice piece of information that Jamie confirmed with me as recently as yesterday, that the north sidewalk on Carling Avenue is set to reopen in 2024. Now, I know that's still next year, but I had always been told after revenue service. So for me, that's like getting, chocolate sauce on my ice cream. Then, of course, this red line here, not of course, but this red line represents a crosswalk that will be installed. When it is installed, it still won't be in service. It won't be in service until after the buses stop using the J ramp. And what we also know is that in stage one, the project, or OC Transpo, ran mirrored bus service for a month or two after we started the train. If that occurs again, then presumably that crosswalk will remain not open until the buses stop using the J ramp. And we get a lot of questions about the Richmond Road Complete Streets and the Byron Linear Parks. We do have some updates here. So the Richmond Road Complete Streets, those designs are in a package called Issued for Construction. There are still a few minor comments outstanding to be resolved. And this line hasn't changed. In fact, that Richmond Road Complete Streets will be implemented following the substantial completion of stage 2 in 2026, following substantial completion. With Byron Linear Park renewal, the landscape plans are in fact finalized. We can say that the work can begin once the tunnel is completely backfilled. And we know that 2024 is the intention to finish backfilling, and therefore there is anticipated to be areas in which there could be some works on the park, the Byron Linear, that is. I would say that I caution myself with that statement. And that is because in a design and build project, you're designing for what you're working on now. Of course, they've designed this stuff, that's great, but they haven't worked through the plans on how they're going to deliver it. Now, my concern is in 2025 or 2026 that we might hear that, no, we're not going to work on Byron Linear Park until we're done Richmond Road Complete Streets. And I don't want that to be true, but I just want everyone to know that I don't want to be the liar, so I'm going to be the unfortunate truth teller. And unfortunately, that means we don't always get what we want. And it means that, but it does mean that I'm not going to be pointed to as the person who said one thing and then another thing was done, which happens about every third week. So I'm sorry about that. I do have, in fact, some images here of the final state.
Anna, can we have a comment here that needs to be made?
So it's super. Just when you talked about the complete streets, and maybe you can go back to that slide, I don't think anyone knows what you're talking about.
Well, the complete streets. So we went through an entire a consultation process in 2016, 2017, 2016, 2017. And we had a public action, a PAC, so a public advocacy committee. We also had a TAC, a technical advisory committee. We had over half a dozen presentations and consultations, mostly held in the building beside you, though it did shift at times, in Our Lady of Fatima Church. Now, the whole thing there is Richmond Road Complete Streets, and that's part of what I want to say I'll be able to present to the community. Now, on the Stage 2 website, under the resource section, you can see the preliminary drawings that we developed during our consultations. Effectively, what we're talking about is you're going to see a sidewalk on the north side. You're going to see a westbound cycle track on the north side. You're going to see an eastbound cycle track on the south side of Richmond Road. You're going to see a meandering sidewalk inside Byron Linear Park. And you're going to see a rebuilt sidewalk on the south side of Byron Avenue. It's going to include some new pedestrian crossings, and it's a way to make intersections more up to date. It's a way to bring infrastructure more up to date. It's a way to make a street flow in the way that today's thinking is more efficient and safe for users. That's what Richmond Road Complete Streets is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In fact, this drawing, I do have some excerpts because what I wanted to demonstrate here were some of the intersections that are some of the more contentious and problematic in terms of cut through or importance or concern. In fact, during planning, the one thing we heard quite a bit was that Woodpark is very concerned about cut through, and so some of these things will support those concerns. Here, Richardson, in our final state, is being closed to Richmond Road. Byron and Richardson will connect. You'll have sidewalks, cycle tracks. So these drawings are effectively some sections of the Richmond Road Complete Streets. A bit of the design of the park, but not to the extent of the trees. And I just caution you for that. We'll do a proper landscape plan for that. This here is Edgeworth Avenue. As you can see, we've got bidirectional cycle track here, and we have sidewalks as well. And I don't even think that guy in a pickup truck will be able to get around that, but I don't want to jinx this, so I take that back. Ancaster Avenue, well, the cut through. During our planning stage, we were told we only want a right turn out. We want to prevent right turns in. And so this is the design for that. These are more rumble strips. Unfortunately, the design wasn't able to be more deliberate in terms of that curve, and that is because of the requirement of emergency service vehicles to make corners that we don't want residents making or general traffic making. So hence the rumble strips and not quite the curved delineation on this side that we had discussed back in the planning days. That being said, still looking pretty good. And lastly, at the west end of our Ward 7, Compton Avenue. So as you may be aware, and I'm sorry if I'm assuming knowledge, but as part of the Byron Linear Park enhancement, we are closing off access of Byron at Woodruff West and Woodruff East. That is the Byron accesses east and west of Woodruff. And what we're going to do is we are going to expand the park. And so that's what you can see here. And again, benefiting, I believe. And here we are with community impacts. I want everyone to know that if you would like to receive the Ward 7 weekly night work summary, please email me and I will add you to the distribution list. We do have public notices as well as electronic updates. If you go to our MailChimp, you can sign up for the distribution list to be included to any of the station notices, which is pretty useful and helpful. And here we've got noise, we've got crane, we've got concrete, we've got traffic impacts on Byron, we've got pumps, generators, and light plants. We've got trucks that are supposed to travel only on designated haul routes or approved haul routes. We've got street sweeping and snow clearing. And this is my attempt at being a little fun because winter is coming. And then vehicular and cyclists and pedestrians will always acknowledge that I don't need to say this, that yes, there are detours around cranes and whatnot, construction and whatnot with this project. And that's true. And that is part of it. And I'm sorry. Sorry, I did want to say that I am a observer in my capacity of the Woodpark Facebook group, but only as an observer. Therefore, if you are writing something for me to see, I won't see it. I don't keep notifications on my phone. I don't go on there enough. But when people flag it, I do go there. So I did see there was that issue today, or posted today about the driveway. Which I was able to send to Jamie, and so that's if you want resolution or if you want my help, please email me. I just don't have the capacity to survey every Facebook group along Ward 7 and Ward 15 to see if I've missed anything. So I apologize that I can't be that diligent, but I do want to support those of you who take the time to email me. And I look forward to hearing from you. Now, before I jump into questions, we did receive some questions in advance. And I wasn't sure if you wanted me just to have these up on the screen, read them out, or just include them in the final. Sue, did you have any thoughts on that?
Out and stated response.
Okay, I'll just read through it then. Will Kev be using the Lawn Avenue Parkette as a snow dumping zone again? And well, the answer is not yes. The answer is quite likely. Kev notes that the site is constrained, and so snow has to go somewhere, and that's part of Kev's temporary lands. And when city provides temporary lands in the contract, those lands are at the discretion of the contractor. Is Richardson Avenue at Richmond Road going to be closed to vehicles? And in fact, I just discussed that, but yes, in fact, it will be closed and connects with Byron. This one does address excavators and moving. Now, I will read to you what Kev has provided, and stockpiles have been created for soil excavated during construction of the project. All stockpiles contain only clean fill, non-contaminated soil, and that is confirmed by the Ministry of the Environment. The stockpiles are temporary as the material is used as backfill for tunnels and stations when required. Access to these areas is 24 hours a day, although most of the activity is Monday to Friday, day and night. Construction equipment is used on site to create and maintain stockpiles. Stockpiles are built up and drawn down as necessary. The stockpile in Lincoln Fields, or Mount Fields, was built up in 22, then drawn down earlier this year. Recently, Kev has been adding material to the stockpiles from both Byron and Connaught tunnels, and that activity is bringing more fill to that area. However, presumably, that's where the fill will come from because of this wonderful location in the middle of all these sites. There's the concern about dump trucks on Richardson. I mentioned that earlier. Kev notes this was an anomaly and not the normal plan, and do apologize for this. I had also mentioned that because we are in a no eastbound detour anymore, Richmond Road, that is, that we do not have a requirement as in no other place for trucks to egress. And, you know, what we do believe is, or what we do know is that despite everyone's best efforts, there are errant vehicles that do travel from time to time. And that is something that Kev apologizes for and does work upon hearing about these errors in drivers' judgments, does work with their subcontractors to fix those problems. And lastly, so there we go. I answered the second one. And the third one, it is our hope and our intention to provide as much notice as possible on our impacts. And sometimes that is possible and sometimes it isn't. And even when it's not possible, please note that there are people advocating on your behalf and working really hard to do the best they can for you. At this point, I have finished the presentation as well as the notices or the questions that were sent to us previously. So at this point, I'd be more than happy to open this up to, well, that's a big me, to open that up to questions from the floor.
Hartley Avenue. You haven't mentioned Hartley. Is that going to remain open to Richmond Road?
I'm sorry, I'm having a lot of trouble hearing the people inside the room. If there's a way to get closer to the microphone, or I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear
I can, thank you.
Okay, so you didn't mention Hartley Avenue. Is that going to remain open to Richmond Road?
Yes, it will. I just confirmed that with my traffic guy.
Okay, Google Pixel 6a, could you please ask your question?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, Damon, I'm sorry that you're so sick. You are a very nice speaker, and I got to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of yours until I saw you in real life. Because your name is on all the posters, and okay. I'm a resident of the apartment, and like the other question said, have not slept properly in, 3.5 years. And plus it's constant. It's very, very disruptive and very, very bad for mental health. I can't tell from your rendered drawings what is what. Plus they're very small, so I would have to look on the website. And even though it happens outside my window 24/7, I can't make out what's what. Is there any way that there could be a fence erected on the NCC lands and some soundproof material put there to cushion some of the reverberating sound that the higher you are, the louder it is? And I mean, yeah.
Sorry, that's a really good question and a feeling and a sentiment that's heard by most. First off, I do know that I am enemy number one in Ward 7, and I'm sorry about that because everyone I know seems to like me, but I'm sorry, it's not an enviable position to have.
No.
And I didn't catch which building you're in. I'm sorry.
Well, I am at 2385 Carling Avenue.
Okay.
It is the one at Carling and Edgeworth. It is literally, I mean, it's so loud. Like right now I'm listening, the hauling, the dumping, the rock breaking, the steel on steel, and then the pile of rock that is sitting there, not the huge one that's like as tall as a mountain, but it's dirt that they have put beside a fence. And I guess they did that when they've dug I don't know what they're doing. I also see a bus state, because I went over there one day in tears and I said, "What are you doing?" And they said, "Oh, that's a bus garage," which I have no idea what that's doing there and why it's on an angle. But the entrance to it will be such that I can see buses going in and out of it. And I don't know if it's a mechanical garage, and they'll be dropping tools and talking and yelling, and that'll be reverberating. I mean, it's ruined my life, and I cannot move because rents have gone up 60% since I moved into I don't know what to do.
So I want to parse this out a bit. In terms of the noise mitigation for a building, I'm not aware of what level you're on, but it is very, very challenging, if not impossible, without a noise wall taller than the building to mitigate the noise, because sound waves travel up.
Yeah, I'm on the top floor.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe Jamie and his environmental team have some magic wand, but I went through a year and a half education on noise and sound and how it travels, and the experts and the engineers I spoke to gave me no confidence that that would be possible. In fact, if it was something like a generator, Jamie's been really responsive. If I say, there's a bothersome generator, he'll either move that generator behind a berm of like an amount of dirt, or wrap it in the echo barriers. But what I think might be very helpful, in fact, is if we took the specific conversation offline, and did you get a chance to catch my email address?
Yes, I did copy it.
Perfect. I would encourage you to send me an email, preferably tomorrow, because I'm taking my kids to Disney World on Monday, assuming they let us on the airplane. Berlin's.
I hope you do.
But it'd be my pleasure to work to talk with you. Explain to some of the different buildings. I'm not sure if they misspoke and said it's a bus garage. I know that it could possibly be a bus operator building, and those are constructed at Transitway at terminus locations in order for drivers to go to the washroom, relax, look at the boards, whatnot. Yeah, because the bus loop is currently on the west side of Lincoln Fields. In the final state, it will be on the east side of Lincoln Fields.
So Damon, so if I may, that's exactly what's being built. That's exactly what's being built there. It's the bus operator building that you referenced, and so that's one of the buildings that you can see that's being erected there. And yes, so that's at that particular station. So that's where the bus drivers will go and take breaks and use washrooms and things like that, and also come in and pick up their. That's where they'll be going. So that's part of it. And yeah, you're quite right. I mean that it is a challenge in terms of the types of work that we're doing, and to have any sort of noise mitigation in terms of noise barriers, noise walls, and things like that. We do, and Damon will connect with you tomorrow. But there is some things that we can maybe take a look at in terms of inside the units and inside the homes, in terms of a white noise machine or a pink noise machine. And it doesn't eliminate the noise, but it helps mask it. And so we've been a little bit successful in some areas. And so Damon can connect with you on that. And some people do find that helpful. We recognize the impacts we're having. We're trying to get the project built and get the hell out of there, and as quickly as possible. And as Damon said, we're about 73% complete of the work at Lincoln Field Station per se. There's work around that, and we've got guideway work there. But I would argue that sort of most of the noisy, impactful work in that area that you've been experiencing is largely complete. because we've done the Carling, we've done a lot of the Lincoln Field stuff, we've the bus operated building, we've got a big pump station right there that's been created as well, and a lot of that work was taking place in the overnight periods, and so I recognize the disruption for folks.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Hi, Damon. I'm a resident of the little complex Hartley Midway in Richmond, and we've got a 13-car parking.
Yes, sir.
And I think
Yes.
I think the problem's solved now that Richmond eastbound is open, but over the past month, 8 times out of 10, the KEV workers have barriers across, so I can't get into my parking lot. And I've had 2 very aggressive interactions with KEV. One when I've moved the barriers, and they don't know anything about. Like, I've got the letter from you and the email and everything that McEwen to Richardson was to be kept open. Richardson's now closed, but you can travel right through. So essentially, I think that's over with. They've even gone through the lights. I waited 4 light cycles before I just drove through the red to make a left off of Ambleside onto Richmond. But anyhow, I think that one's solved.
I think so too. I'm disappointed to hear what I'm hearing, and I wish we could have connected earlier, because that was not supposed to be the case. In fact,
the workers just didn't know.
No, I know, and that's the challenge, and that's why I want everyone in this room and anybody who's listening, don't be afraid, or don't worry about messaging me. I want you to. I want Jamie's and his team are very responsive. If there's something we can do, they will do it. And if someone's blocking your driveway or your parking lot, my God, it will get fixed. And I don't want you to suffer for a month, only to tell me later. And that hurts me a little, because I want to be there for you guys.
Well, I solved the problem.
Yes, you did. And I like you, take matters into my own hands sometimes.
It's I'm a retired geotechnical engineer, so I can throw all the lingo at the guys, but like, I wasted 20 minutes of their time explaining to them that you had authorized, KEV was aware, stage 2 is supposed to be open. And as I say, it was only 2. Fortunately, we didn't have any head-on collisions, because after Friday night, I think they opened Richmond eastbound, and just about everybody that accessed my parking lot had given up on driving eastbound on Richmond, so we drive the wrong way up and into the parking lot. It's 30 meters. And anyhow, I think that one is solved now. But I guess my comment is really,
I think so too, sir.
Communication to the KEV people, so they know what you've established as the protocols. Because I'm assuming there are going to be.
Well, it's interesting, because I mean, just to clarify for the team, all plans are developed by KEV, vetted and approved by the city, and then put in place and actioned by KEV. So it's not that KEV didn't know, it's that maybe information wasn't hitting to a couple of people. And that's why, you shouldn't feel bad about contacting me, because these are things that we as the city representatives expect from the contractor, because we want to maintain access to people's homes.
Yeah, I mean, I've only observed since Friday night 2 situations where cars coming eastbound on Richmond, and everybody that has solved the problem by driving the wrong way up Richmond to get to our parking lot. A lot of horn honking and angry fists out windows, but anyhow, I appreciate the challenge of your project. So thank you, and I don't think anything's going to come up, but I'll be in touch.
Please do, sir. Thank you.
Hi, Damon, it's Don. We have a question here from the floor. Will the community be able to provide input into the landscape reinstatement plan? And I'm assuming this is along Byron Linear.
If that question was about Byron Linear, then the answer is they already have. In 2016, 2017, when we started off with the Richmond Road Complete Streets project, and that was the time when we learned that the tunnel was in fact going to go underneath Byron Linear Park. And so they became a combined effort. And so those consultations were done. And in fact, the consultations and the information provided by the community to the city at the time, which we put into our project specifications, that included a list of species that the community wanted to see. Of course, we ensured that those trees were right for our environment, right for the urban environment where salt and whatnot would be quite prevalent from the roads, that is. But that is what you'll see. Now, my intention is to come back to the community, and if it's not December's not a good month, then it'll be January. And really, I haven't seen the plans myself, but I'm told they're done. I'm going to get walked through them when I'm back from my holidays, and then I'll be in a position where I can share with you the efforts of the design, and that'll include, if the interest is what kind of trees and where those trees will go, it's as specific as that. And so we can see there, and that's my answer.
Damon, maybe just following
In
up.
that we can't consult on something that's
Following up.
Yeah.
So it's Sue here again. Just following up on that, that was the Byron piece of it. The Lincoln Fields piece of it gets into NCC land. Is it a different scenario for the NCC land, or is it still being managed by the city?
So it is being managed by the city. It's being approved by the NCC. In fact, the drawings that I have shared with maybe not everyone in this room, but some of you in this room before, Don will have seen this. And I don't have it handy right now, but it's basically, it's in Schedule 15 of our project agreement with Kev. It actually is the landscape drawings for Lincoln Fields. Now, these are the approved landscape drawings approved by the NCC. Things do change. For example, we are now installing a noise wall, changing the locations of certain elements, but fundamentally, those designs are also pre-consulted on and completed.
That's too close.
Okay.
That's good.
Just about communication, I hear that you really want us to reach out to you and communicate with you. I feel that there's a need for reestablishing trust and accountability, especially around pedestrian safety. We've had numerous situations where things have not gone the way that was intended. The pedestrian bridge over to Woodruff was delayed and delayed and delayed. We were promised it would never be impacted. We're told about what the traffic is to be predicted on Richardson. It exceeds it. We aren't given information back quickly. How can we rectify this situation? Because the trust is very low right now. And we need to be informed if things are going to change, and be informed before we have to reach out and go, whoa, there's craziness happening here with truck traffic.
Right. Very good points. Is this Alice I'm talking to?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Alice. So yeah, I was the guy who told you that the Woodruff pedestrian bridge wouldn't close before the new one was opened. I said that because we put that in our contract and it was in black and white. But construction being what it is, that wasn't what turned into be the case. So I mentioned at the beginning, you know, I've been made a liar, and that's one of those things. Like I don't like being a liar. I'm not a liar in my personal life, but I do know that communities want specific answers and deserve specific answers. I do my best to get as much information as I can that I can confirm and corroborate with my team, with Kev, that I can then share with the community. Richardson having trucks on it, I advocated that it not occur, but it did because there was no other place for the trucks to go. There was a commitment it would only be one element. Oh, there was a day when there was more. Alice, I get that. That is as not irksome to me as the person who lives on Richardson, but irksome because it's my name that gets devalued every time that happens. What I am happy to hear is that Kev is able to accommodate and change and fix these problems when and where possible. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this response to you, Alice, and to Don, I believe it was, but the city and the Kev develops a plan, the city reviews it and only approves it once they've met certain criteria and basically are that the plan is good with the city. Now, this is a huge project. This is not an excuse. This is an explanation. But when you have a lot of people working on a lot of places, there are a lot of things that are happening that are not being shared to CevComs, let alone city comms. And that means I do need my stakeholders, my wonderful people out there, Alice, just like you, who can flag a problem that we can bring to the front and then we can try and resolve. Because ultimately, I mean, I saw my parents' house get renovated when I was in grade 8, and with only 8 people working, there were just abhorrent levels of communication and things not going the way it was supposed to go. I can't imagine a 44-kilometer project.
And
all that to say is, Alice, I hope that you have the ability to regain your faith in the city staff in advocating consistently for the residents and Kev's desire to make better where and where possible they can. And as my wife said, actions speak louder than words. She's not wrong. So let's put our money where our mouth is.
And I'm glad that I feel that you're put in the middle a lot. And so I'm glad that Kev's here and can hear some of this as well, because it's not just you that needs to have the trust built. Kev needs to improve communications and improve communications flowing to yourself and the rest of the community members. And that being said, again, just one last piece around pedestrian access, Carling, that south sidewalk and that crosswalk and the high school students, that's got to be prioritized, please.
Damon,
The sidewalk on the south side of Carling?
Oh, north side, sorry, I got it mixed up. The north side.
Yes.
Damon,
I fully concur. Yes.
Say Kev submits the plans and the city approves the plans before they go into operation. Who in the city is approving the plans, and is there any citizen representation? Are you on that approval team?
So it would depend on what plan we're talking about. If we're talking about a traffic control plan, well, then we've got our traffic control engineers who are city staff, and they're the ones who review it. I sit in on the internal traffic meetings. Those plans are also reviewed and shared with city signals, traffic operations, OC Transpo. Those are the individuals who do review these projects. This is Campbell Linwood, who I just referenced. And so is there a citizen component to that? No. In fact, it wasn't even viable during the heavy design phase for us to share designs for a third or fourth party review. Because of the number of designs and the size of those design package, the number of people within our own project office that had to review any single piece of paper, we only had a certain number of days to do that, or else we would be complicit to violating the project agreement. And that's something that we couldn't put ourselves in. And so those are the people, as a, for example, with traffic, and no, there isn't a citizen component, other than the fact that we're all City of Ottawa residents and proud of it.
Okay, we have another online question, and sorry, I've forgotten your name, Google Pixel 6a.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My name's Linda, and I really feel bad for Damon. I wouldn't want his job for like $500,000 a year. But okay,
If anybody
one
asks
more thing.
5,000, I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, you deserve a couple $100,000. Okay, the question is, and it's a city question, so it's kind of like a subsidiary to the project. The path that they made. Winter is coming, and it's often unbelievably icy. How often do, the salting, the salting for walking?
So that there's a two element here. It is a city, and it's also a KEV, depending on which pathway we're talking about. If it's part of KEV's zone, then KEV is the group that is winter maintaining, salting, or managing that. If it's not in their zone, then it's a city street thing.
Just the path from from Carling and the bus stop as soon as it starts to I don't know, the lawn path, the park, path to the parkette.
Okay, the pathway through Lincoln Fields. My apologies.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know what it's
That's
called.
okay. No, I'm not
that
trying
section, Damon.
to make you feel bad.
Yeah, the section from the north sidewalk of Carling that goes up through Lawn Avenue is actually managed by Public Works. So if there's any concerns about the plowing or salting, a request would have to go through 311.
Oh, okay.
So we are working together. We meet every year to see what changes and plan between Public Works, OC Transpo, and KEV, and who's responsible for which stretch. And it does change a little bit every year. So we will have a new map made shortly, and we do have that so that if we do get a complaint, we don't play past the messenger. We help facilitate it, but that one in particular is and has always been Public Works.
Oh yeah, I mean, I call the city. There's been all this has brought up a lot of memories. Like I've called so many times because they'd leave things, like barricades, metal barricades, like just stacked up, or to move all kinds of stuff. And so I guess I don't know. I've made a lot of phone calls, but it was 2 years ago, so I blocked it out. I forgot.
We have one more online question, and then we're going to wrap up. Mark, go ahead.
Thanks very much, Damon. By the way, thank you very much for doing this. It was very informative, and I do want to thank our association for making this happen. One thing that I find is annoying, but it's not a great big deal, is when the trucks use their air horns. Is that really necessary? Like on weekends, it's really bad.
Jamie, I'm going to defer to you, please.
Yeah, Mark. Thanks for your question. To be honest, it's not a concern that I've actually heard from anybody. We usually get what we hear about trucks is when some trucks or equipment aren't equipped with broadband backup alarms, and they go beep beep beep. But is it? And so I'm sort of struggling when I saw your question come up in the chat. What we're dealing with. I'm wondering whether it's related to some of the cement trucks as they're delivering concrete to the sites, or whether it's actually down below. Maybe pop off an email to Damon, or if you can take a couple of seconds now, just describe a little bit more when you're sort of hearing it, and is it coming from trucks or is it down in the tunnel section?
it's trucks mostly as they approach or as they leave.
Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised about that. Maybe you know what we always suggest is so the easiest thing for us to chase things down, and it goes with respect to this one, or whether it's traffic infiltration in neighborhoods or anything. If you can get a picture, if you happen to be out and you see the truck or whatever that's blasted its air horn, maybe you can't always figure out exactly which one. Just take a picture and send it on to Damon or send it on to me, and then we can investigate it right away and see that it's dealt with. But I'll go back to.
But I do want to stress, it's not just Kev trucks. It's most trucks that are there. Like I've heard it from cement trucks, Kev trucks, but it's mostly the haulers, the dump trucks.
So I'm gonna go back and again, I'll circle back with our trucking team tomorrow to see what's going on there. As I said, it's not a complaint that I've heard, and so therefore it's not something I can easily answer. But I'll go back and we'll circle back with Damon. We'll get an answer to how often these things are used, or if there's an opportunity to reduce them. Often they're there for, obviously when you've got an air horn, it's more for safety, but let me go back and investigate and we'll get an answer for you.
Just reminds me of the Ottawa takeover we had a few years ago. Don't want to go through that again.
No, we don't.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thanks for the question.
I think we're at the end of our questions, so thank you very much to Mark and Jamie and the other folks for giving us some good information and listening to our concerns. I think you heard it loud and clear tonight and some of the correspondence. We want to keep the communication open. I think if there's ever an event like having 49 trucks going down Richardson, which maybe never happened on Richmond, but I mean, those truck operators need to be contacted. Why can't we be contacted too, or at least the community association, so we can get the message out? So let's keep the communication going. So, because I think when people know something's going to happen, they can kind of prepare themselves, decide not to have their kids play on the street that day, walk their dogs in a different area. So please, a plea to keep the communication open, and we will also agree to keep communicating with you when we do see things that we think are wrong. But thanks everyone for coming and for participating, and we look forward to the end of 2024, and we look even more forward to riding that train, but we won't put a date on that yet. So thank you very much. Damon, I hope you get off to Florida without any further sickness, and Jamie and team, thanks for participating tonight, and with that we will say it's a wrap. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.